been there the whole time. Just keep looking up and open up your eyes. Don't get lost in a crowd. You were made to stand out. The Wonder Creative Podcast. Well, hello, welcome to another episode of the Wonder Creative Podcast. And I hope you've been doing well and had a good week so far. And thanks for joining me again for an episode where we talk about life, creativity, business, all those good things. I hope that you've been enjoying kind of the new structure and schedule of things. I kind of revamped it a little bit to suit my life because we are facing a lot of different life changes, which I'll get into today. That's kind of like the whole episode today. But before I get into that, Asher has been wanting to be on the podcast, my son. And I let him get on the podcast last season. And so he's been asking. And so I wanted to go ahead and give him another little moment to shine. I have a very boundary with, my kids being involved in my business and all of that. But most of the time I don't really like to merge those worlds. But today we're going to let him enjoy his moments. So here you go. Okay, what do you want to say?
Welcome to our podcast. This is Asher's and Chloe's podcast.
Well, welcome everybody. I have someone very special with me who has been asking to join me on the podcast for some time now, and he had his little time to shine a little while back, and he really was excited to do it again. So,
and it's named Asher that I'm talking right now.
Okay, you don't have to, just stay right here. You don't have to talk close into the mic, okay? You're good.
Okay.
Okay. So, would you like to tell everyone what you've been doing this week so far?
Well, I have been doing my, usual learning time. Yeah, homeschooling, and I'm doing nature school.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yes.
Yes, and I am doing nature school, and I'm also doing homeschool nature school.
Yes. We regularly get together with our friends who we do something called nature school, which means we just go out and in nature and look at God's creation and learn from His creativity, right?
Right.
So what did you...
And I've been doing my exercises, my usual.
Your usual exercises. You are so in shape. You exercise every day, don't you?
Yep, I do.
What's your favorite exercise to do?
Cosmic
Kids yoga. So, little tip for anybody out there. If you want to do some awesome exercise with your kids, Cosmic Kids yoga is amazing. So,
and it has the secret yoga code word, which is Namaste.
Yes, Namaste. That's very good. So, what have you learned today so far?
Well, I have done the pigeon one, which is I don't remember what it's called. I did have a tummy ache.
Oh,
Because a dirty pigeon, but he wasn't dirty. He wasn't dirty. He was clean and nice. And that one a hidden box was actually a trash can.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Was that a story that you read?
No. It was a Cosmic Kids that I know.
Oh, Cosmic Kids Yoga.
Yeah.
Okay, I was asking what you've learned in your learning time today.
I did learn about I did learn about letters, but I didn't really learn. I just wrote them.
Okay, cool. And who teaches you?
Daddy.
Is he a good teacher?
Yep.
And
so is usually my my girl is doing the girl that's doing my podcast. the podcast with.
Oh, me? Mommy?
Yep.
Mommy's a good teacher?
Yep.
Aw.
You are.
Oh, thanks. What does Mommy do for work?
She does podcasts, meetings, and she works. That's all.
That's all I do. All right. Is there anything else you want to say? Hey, do you want to tell them about our special announcement?
Oh, yep. We're having a baby named Sprinkle.
Yeah.
Little Sprinkle.
Well, yeah,
that's all it's called.
Yeah, that's what we're calling it right now. That's what Asher likes to call it, because when we first found out that we were having a baby, it was the size of a sprinkle. And now, what's it the size of now?
A gumball.
A gumball. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know you people like to eat gumballs.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody likes eating gumballs.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I love gumballs. Have you ever had a gumball?
Oh. But I have seen one on Paw Patrol.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Okay.
It was Cantor's friend, Francois.
Oh, and what are we going to do this month, at the end of the month, with Paw Patrol? What are we going to do?
Go to theater and watch that mighty movie.
Yeah, we're so excited.
Yep, and I actually watched ads of it.
Oh, you did? And what do you think?
Great. And you know Sky was super strong. She could break that meteor in half.
Oh, wow.
And Liberty was there too. And do you know that I think she has superpowers, but I don't know. But Chase still has.
What's your superpower?
Helping everybody?
Yes.
Yeah, and I also am the bedtime reader.
The bedtime reader? Okay.
Yep.
That's awesome. Well,
Right.
are you excited to be a big brother?
Yep, I am. And do you know that
You're going to be the best. Anything else you want to say?
Yep. It's you have to if you like watching Super Kitties, just let me know, because I'll let you know where it is.
Oh, okay. Wonderful. All right. Thank you for being on my podcast with me.
Yes, and maybe I'll tell you guys right now. It's Disney.
Oh, is it on Disney?
Uh-huh.
Okay. All right.
Because I saw on Disney and it was great. And you also have song, there's a cheese one with a rat.
Okay.
Yeah.
All righty. Thank you for being on my podcast with me. I love you very much, and I'm going to let you go back to doing what you're doing and eating lunch, okay?
Yes, but my exercise is over, and now it's time to do a Miss Linky.
Oh.
And I'll tell you where Miss Linky is when it's another podcast, or maybe I'll tell you right now. It's on where Hot Wheels is.
It's on YouTube.
YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Tune in next time to see Asher talk about Super Kitties.
Wow, okay. Thank you, Asher. All right. So now that Asher's had his moment, let's go ahead and get into what today's podcast is about. So I recently, as you just heard, we are expecting another baby. So that is a really big deal. I have not been pregnant in 5 years. So I feel like I'm doing this again for the first time. Everything feels different. And this pregnancy is much different than Asher's was. And so it's been a very interesting season. But I wanted to talk about overwhelm and feeling overwhelmed as a parent, as a business owner, when life happens. I think we all kind of like to think that we are in control of everything all the time. And we plan everything, especially like as a parent and a business owner. It's like there is a lot on your shoulders. There is a lot of things that we are responsible for. And so sometimes it makes us feel like we are ultimately in control of our life. But then we realize when life happens and things come up, it's like, oh, we are not in control of our own life. And so, anyway, when we get in these seasons, it can feel very overwhelming. And I am not going to lie to you. I've felt the realness of that feeling, of feeling overwhelmed. So I kind of wrote out my thoughts. So I will be like looking over here to reference kind of what I've written out if you're watching on YouTube. But to go ahead and like get into this, like overwhelming seasons come when life just ebbs and flows. Like we can't expect for things to just always go perfectly the way that we plan them. That's not how life works. And especially, overwhelming seasons don't necessarily mean that something bad is happening or that you're in a bad place. It can just be a natural repercussion of changes happening, transition, life events. You get pregnant, you have a miscarriage, you lose someone, you move. Like there's so many different things that happen in our lives that cause unexpected changes. This can lead to just that feeling of tension in our lives. And so rather not like getting down on ourselves for being in an overwhelming season, I think there are some truths that we can remind ourselves of whenever we get in overwhelming seasons. And I do not like claim to have all the answers to this. I really don't. But I feel like I am you guys know how I am. Like I am learning things as I go along. As I have been kind of going through it the last several months, I feel like there's some things that maybe I can share that will hopefully encourage somebody else that may be going through a similar journey. The other side of facing an overwhelming season is like, there are some things that we just will never learn or even become until we walk through a challenging season. And think about the greatest stories that have ever been told. There is, a main character that faces an obstacle, they conquer it, and then they become the hero. And so whenever we get in these overwhelming seasons, it may be an obstacle that you're facing that turns you into a hero, that leads to your victory. And I think that's something that we have to remember and keep in front of us whenever we go through overwhelming seasons, or we will just so focus on the thing that is overwhelming us, and then we will allow it to overtake us. And I just don't believe that that's how we should be navigating these seasons. I would say that myself and my family are in an overwhelming season. And I want to share a little bit of where we've been at with it all, but I want to frame it in hope and truth and peace for others who are also in this overwhelming season of life and find themselves in a similar place. Yes, I am, as I said, I am pregnant with our second baby, and I am in a very different place than I was with my first baby, Asher. I work for myself. I do not have the 9-to-5 corporate job that has all the benefits and everything that I can really take hold of right now and enjoy. I work for myself, and so that means that my business has to support where I'm at in life right now and what's to come. And so I feel like this is where the rubber really meets the road whenever you own a business and you become an entrepreneur. Like, can your business actually support you through major life events? And we're about to find out. As a creative entrepreneur, someone that creates for a living, we need a lot of energy to do what we do. And I'm not saying that other people and other aspects of life and industries don't need creativity and don't need to access it all the time or have that creative energy. But I would just say that probably any creative can attest to the real, just sheer mental strength that it takes every day to create for our work. It's a discipline, and it's something that I feel demands a reordering of your life if you are going to consistently create. And if that's something that you want for your life, it requires a reordering. It requires a different set of rules for life. When it comes to overwhelming seasons, as a creative entrepreneur, it can get tricky because everything feels that much more difficult to accomplish. Overwhelm is a very real feeling, and the smallest thing that gets added to your plate can feel like the biggest thing when you're overwhelmed, when you're over capacity, when you just do not have the means to do the things that you once did. Creativity can suffer. You could find yourself not accessing it as freely and easily, and it's not flowing as freely as it once was. And so if you haven't disciplined yourself to really access creativity, even when it's not flowing naturally, you'll find yourself struggling. And I have faced that many times, and even recently. One of the biggest things is I pay attention to what I'm consuming and how much I'm consuming, like whether that's social media, TV, whatever it is. Like I really pay attention, and because everything that I put in it feeds that. It feeds my soul. It feeds my spirit. This season in particular, I feel like while my output has been less, my input has been more. So like I have been really focusing on nourishing my spirit and my soul and my creativity so that I can thrive in the midst of overwhelm, in the midst of things not being as natural as they once were. Like I can't just like sit down and just like be creative every day. Sometimes it takes a little bit more. It takes a little bit more nurturing, and that's okay. I think it really like shows like that discipline. So this is, one of the reasons why I say we can't just rely on inspiration to just come and go whenever it wants, but to really nurture our creative life in a way that gives us a roadmap and a framework, a blueprint to get us to creativity no matter what state we're in. So over the last 4 years, I've lived and breathed my business. I've lived and breathed, I would say that it was very like high priority on my list to build my business. And for people that are building their businesses or have like built businesses, you understand those early years of building a business. It requires a lot of grit and a lot of like stamina, a lot of energy. And so that's kind of where I've been the last 4 years. And it's not from a place of like hustle, it's not from a place of striving. It's just like doing what's required. Like this is just a part of it. And I knew that going in, I knew that it was going to be a lot. I knew that it was going to require a lot of me, but I knew that it was a worthy ask of myself to do it because I know what I'm building. I know the end of the story. Like I know what I'm working towards. And so it gives me the strength to do it. But it just comes down to being responsible. And so that's just, what I've been doing. That's what I've been focusing on. And of course, I have other things in my life, like my family, that is obviously more important than that. I love Wonder Creative, and it's very important to me, not only because it's my livelihood, it's a dream, but also like it just represents so much. At the beginning of the year, it's like I found myself longing for more. I found myself longing for, like, I wanted something more than a thriving business. Like, I wanted a thriving life. I wanted a thriving home and family. And there were these other dreams that started to like really sprout in my heart. And, you know, Wonder Creative is not the entirety of who I am, right? Like, I have other dreams. I have other passions. I love music. I love writing music. I love being creative in every way. Like, I love being outside. I love being with my family. I love nurturing my child. I love teaching him. I love seeing the world through his eyes. I have a passion for helping people, and just there's so many different things. I'm a very multi-passionate, multifaceted person. So, and sometimes it feels hard for me to, whenever I'm focusing so heavily on something and it's like a very big something, it's kind of hard for me to be able to honor these other passions that I have, because this one thing is taking up so much of my capacity, you know? All that to say, like, in the last, you know, the beginning of the year, it's like I felt like this draw of home and family. And it wasn't like, you know, oh, I don't want to do Wonder Creative anymore and I just like want to be a mom, you know? It was like, is it really, like, I started asking myself the question, like, is it really possible to do both? Is it really possible to hold both in both hands? You know, can I be business owner? Can I also be mom and do both of these things well? Because I don't want either one of these things to suffer. And it feels that way sometimes. It feels like if I'm focusing my attention on one thing, the other thing is going to suffer. And if that's the case, then I just don't want, you know, like, I don't want it. Because I don't want to fail. I don't want to feel like I'm failing. So it was like I put everything on the table again. Instead of like believing that I was in control of my life, like, I remembered, like, I'm a child of God. He is in control of my life. I'm putting this on the table and we're going to talk about it. And I just kind of put everything on the table again, and especially Wonder Creative. And I just surrendered it and was like, Lord, whatever you want to do with this, like, it's yours. It's not mine. And I'm open. I'm open to whatever you want this to be. If it doesn't need to be anymore, that's fine. Like, I'm not attached to it. It's not my identity. You know, I have dreams, but if they're not yours, I don't want them. Like, it's just, you know, that's just kind of what it came down to. Suddenly, the things that mattered the most to me were highlighted in like bright neon yellow in my heart. My business meant nothing to me if it couldn't support these very real parts of my life. And if it doesn't, like, because if it doesn't, then it's not healthy and it's not sustainable. And of course, like, my business needs to serve others. I talk about that all the time. Like, if your business is not serving others, if it's not solving a problem, if you're not delivering value, like, what are you doing? But also, like, if it doesn't align with your values as a person, the human behind the business, then it is meaningless and you will burn out and you will quit eventually. Which is why I talk so much about building your business from a strong, like, brand foundation, because like, this helps you not get lost whenever life happens, or whenever like a potential pivot comes to your business or whatever. Like, you have a strong foundation to thrive and to be successful no matter what. So here I am now, pregnant and trying to figure out this next phase of business and of life. And currently, like, I'm literally just trying to keep food down so that I have energy to work. I do want to take a moment and just say that, like, I in that season of like longing for more for my family, it's like I wanted this so bad, and it didn't happen as quickly as I wanted it to. And that caused me to feel very sick in my heart and facing like disappointment, very real disappointment. And like, what do I do with that, you know? And so now that it's here, it's like, I feel so much joy, and I'm like thrilled out of my mind, right? Like I'm so excited. I know thus far I've been like kind of talking about like how overwhelming it is, but I do want to like really honor how excited and just thankful and grateful and honored I am to carry a life again. Like it is the desire of my heart. And so it's very important to me. But as I am in this different season of life, that pressure just so quickly started to sweep in. Like it was like I had this moment of being like excited, and I felt good, and I was eating, you know, and like I was like, yes, like I'm pregnant, like oh my gosh, this is amazing. And then I started to feel really bad. Like I started to feel sick, and so my energy started going down, and then like life just kept going, and like the world kept spinning, and here I was laying in bed and couldn't get out of bed, couldn't like get energy. I didn't feel like myself. And so, you know, I'm still kind of in that. Like even today, I didn't really get out of bed until noon. And like, it's just been hard to manage life in the meantime. It has nothing to do with how I feel about this baby. It has nothing to do with that, and everything to do with like, how do I do life in the meantime to not only honor myself, but the life I'm carrying and my family. And so just simply because I am in such a different season than I was with Asher, a lot of the things were buffered into my job, and there were a lot of things I didn't have to think about, you know, and I just got to take advantage of as an employee. But now, you know, it's different. It's just different. And so managing that has been interesting so far. And so that's kind of where all this is coming from. But I am so excited, and this has been my dream for a long time, to give Asher a sibling. And so it's such an honor and such a thrill. So we're all very, very excited. But with all of this, you know, comes a reordering of our life. It is a major life event that requires change. And we are in a transition. And so the world keeps turning despite my capacity to be able to handle all the things. And so then that's whenever overwhelm starts. So what do I do? In the midst of all of this, first and foremost, you know, and I've had so many conversations with people, so many encouraging conversations with people about this very thing, about feeling overwhelmed, feeling over capacity. And it's really, really encouraged me. And so I'm very thankful for that. One of the things that I think about a lot is like, first and foremost, this is not going to last forever. I'm not going to feel overwhelmed like this forever. The baby is not the obstacle. The obstacle is, how do I do all of this? Not feeling good, you know, all that stuff. The baby is a blessing. The baby is a blessing. And I don't want anyone to twist my words, because we have received a blessing, and that is incredible. But the obstacle is, how do we sustain, you know, our life? How do we go about this in such a different place? The thing that I have to remember whenever I feel overwhelmed is I cannot allow this hard moment of life to rob me of my former victories. I have, those belong to me. Those victories belong to me. And they are a testament of my character and my strength. And not only that, but of the faithfulness of the Lord and his victory in my life and his strength. And so I can't allow a hard season, an overwhelming season, to make me believe that I'm not capable of doing hard things. And so something I have found myself doing often is bringing my overwhelm to the Lord and asking him to overwhelm me in his love in return, and with his peace, with his joy. And I would say that I am someone that is easily overwhelmed by life. I can be, and that is something that would be considered a weakness. But when it comes to the Lord, it's my strength. Like, I am easily overwhelmed by his love all the time. And so I bring that part of me to him, and he so sweetly meets me in that place all the time, and has been so faithful to me, and keeping him the highest priority in all of this is so key to having the right posture even to begin every day. And it's like when he is the highest priority, all of the other priorities just take shape, and he helps me. He brings clarity, which kind of leads me to my next point: priorities. Whenever you're in an overwhelming season, it's extremely important to know what your priorities are, and keeping what is most important in front of you, keeping what's most important in front of you, and let everything else be what it is. Something that I'm having to be conscious of is not adding more things to my plate out of obligation, because first of all, that's the wrong spirit, right? If you just do things because you feel obligated to, that kind of breeds resentment, and that's not great. But out of joy, yes, I want to add this to my plate. I want to do this, or out of priority. An example of this right now is my priorities are taking care of my body, maintaining connection with my family and my friends, and working when I can. Those are my priorities, daily. Those are my things that I can focus on, that I can control. That means that I have less capacity for other things. But I know that it won't always be this way, but for now, it's just where I'm at, and that's okay. If I add something else to the mix, that means it's a priority. That means it's important. That means that it's worthy to be on my plate right now, something that I feel like I can handle and do well. Creating boundaries is such a healthy thing, and especially for creative people, if we want to receive creativity, which I believe comes from the Lord, I believe it's divine. It comes from our Creator. Then what are we giving him as a vessel for him to pour into? And does a vessel not have walls? Does a vessel not have boundaries? Does it not have a structure? Yes, it does. When we are in these overwhelming seasons, it's easy to feel like you're just swirling around and getting tossed to and fro. But to remember what's most important, and to have that structure, allow that to anchor you. And that's something that I've really been holding on to in this season of life. Being intentional is also another huge thing. Being intentional and asking for help. I cannot be everything to everyone, and I have believed that lie a lot in my life. I have put unrealistic expectations on myself to be all things to all people, and that is not possible. Only the Lord can do that. I've had to have very real and honest conversations with my husband about what I can do right now and what I can't. And, I've had to restructure things like the podcast. I've had to turn down opportunities and say no. I have had to consciously stop comparing myself to other businesses that are in a different place of life and season of business than me. And that's a big one, feeling like I have to keep up, that's not a priority right now, because I am not in that place. And it can feel disappointing, because you feel like you are letting other people down, and sometimes letting yourself down. But at the end of the day, for me, there are 3 people that I absolutely cannot let down, and that is my husband, my son, and the baby in my belly. That is the most important. Those are the most important people in my life. And being able to say yes to them is incredibly fulfilling, despite any feeling of sadness that I may feel disappointing someone else, having to say no to something, having to, restructure my priorities. As disappointing as that can feel, it's incredibly fulfilling to be able to say yes to my children and my husband. Like, I did not create my business to sacrifice things like having more children and being a mom and homeschooling my children. And, I didn't do that to sacrifice those things. I started my business so that I could do those things with ease and with freedom. And so, as I said before, it's like, now this is where the rubber really meets the road with my business. Like, those priorities, am I going to be able to do this? Like, did I line up my priorities correctly thus far? I want to say this, Roots and Refuge, their podcast is incredible. And I listened to her episode about overwhelm, which kind of inspired me to talk about it, because I was going to do a totally different episode this time. And then I was like, maybe I could just talk about like where I'm at, and like maybe it could encourage somebody else. And so she kind of like inspired me and gave me like the confidence to even talk about this. But it's called Navigating Seasons of Overwhelm. And she talks so beautifully about like being able to prioritize your life and say yes to the right things. And something else that she talked about was like, she like years ago neglected her body so much by consistently being over capacity, and until she got to the point where her body required all of her attention, like it shut down and required all of her attention, and causing a very long road to repair for her. And she had to kind of assess all the priorities of her life and everything. She talks about that. And, that's one of the things that I'm trying to avoid as I go through the season of life, of like, I don't want to consistently put myself over capacity to the point where my body just like freaks out. And then it's like, surprise, now this is your entire life now. Surprise, like now you have to focus full attention on this. Even though there are a lot of things that we can do to support ourselves in overwhelming seasons, I also believe that it is not in my own strength to get me through this season of my life. Like, it is not on me. The Lord has made it very clear to me that He is my Father and that He is taking care of me. And He is showing me what to prioritize. He is showing me what to be intentional about. He is giving me the energy to get through every day. And the last thing I need to do is add more pressure to myself, believing that it's on me to get me through this. It simply just requires my response to what is already being given to me by the Lord. To close all of this out, and I hope that all of this has made sense. We are so thrilled. I'm so thrilled to be in this season. Like this is something I have looked forward to for so long. And so that's another thing. Like, I don't want, as overwhelming as all the change can be, I don't want that to rob me of my joy of carrying this life and carrying the promise that the Lord has given to us that is being fulfilled. Like, I don't want the overwhelm to rob me of that, but I also don't want to deny that it's there. I don't want to deny what I feel right now as a mom and as a business owner, as someone that, as I am a mother, now I'm also carrying a child, and then now and providing for our home, while what I'm doing is typically split into two roles for a family, I'm doing both of those roles, and I can't offload anything. I can't give any of this to anybody else. I get to carry this life. I get to be pregnant again, and that is amazing and a blessing. And then I get to allow my business to support me through this. I don't know how it's going to happen. We are still like figuring this out, but I trust that it's all going to be okay. I remind myself of, like I said before, I remind myself of the overwhelming seasons that I've been through before and I didn't know how I was going to get through, and I'm okay. Like, we're okay. And so I trust that it's going to be okay, and it's going to work out, and things like, there is hope. We are not in a hopeless situation by any means. If anything, we should feel encouraged. We should feel excited because life is a miracle. And so very much keep that at the forefront. Like, being very present and connecting to this baby is very important to me. I just wanted to kind of close this out by speaking to the person that is listening to this, that feels that overwhelm, that kind of feels where like there's so much change happening and you feel out of control, and there are changes in life that you don't really know what to do with, and you don't know what's going to happen. You are not alone. There are people facing lots of changes and going through seasons of life that are difficult and transitions and all sorts of things all the time. And you will not be overtaken. You will be victorious. Even though it feels like you are being overtaken, you will not be overtaken. And there is hope, and there is love surrounding you and upholding you, and there is peace within you. And I just believe that the Lord wants to pour that out for anyone that's listening to this today. As much as I have experienced His love and His mercy and grace, to me, I believe like there's so much of that available for anyone and everyone. I believe it's Suicide Prevention Week, which is something that I'm a huge advocate for suicide prevention. And so even in light of that this week, like, I want you to know that you are loved, you are not alone, and it is going to be okay. There's so much goodness that's to come in your life. If you can choose to believe it, if you can choose to see it and see it through that lens, see it through, okay, this is hard, but I can do hard things. There's always, like, on the other side of going through, a tight squeeze, a transition, there's always like beauty that comes out of that, always. If you can choose to approach life in that way. Anyway, I just want to say that to anybody that feels overwhelmed, that feels that tension, that feels those changes. There is so much hope. But that's kind of all that I had for you guys today. And I'm really excited for the next episode that you'll hear after this. It is with Wyatt Sippy. We are going through a major transition of life right now, but we recorded his episode last month, so it will be live after this one, and I'm very excited for you guys to listen to that. We talk about content creation. We talk about Wyatt's journey as a reseller, now like kind of like going more into content creation and like his thoughts on that. And it was just such a good conversation, and it was very fun just to sit down with him. So I hope you guys tune into that. Know that I'm cheering you on. There's so many people that are cheering you on. You can do it. You can keep going. The hard seasons, the overwhelming seasons, they don't last forever. Yeah, I will catch you guys next time. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks so much for listening today. If you enjoyed the episode, I would love for you to go leave a review. You can connect with us on Instagram and Threads at Wonder Creative Pod. Theme song for the podcast was written and sung by me and produced by Andrew Mindy. We'll catch you next time.